Hi, my name is Jonathan Edens, and this is Music of the Indigenous Peoples of Australia. So let's jump in. So, who are the Indigenous peoples of Australia? Indigenous Australians are sometimes referred to as First Nations of Australia because they were the first nations of people to migrate to the Australian continent and make it their home. Who was here first? Indigenous Australians came to this continent on boats around 65,000 years ago. This makes them the oldest group of people to have left Africa. British colonization happened roughly only 220 years ago. How can we best respect Indigenous Australian people? Well, we can learn about their culture. We can understand that they have a rich culture that stems long before their continent was colonized, and we can understand that the term Aboriginal is offensive because it groups many diverse nations of people into one term and erases their individual cultures. So, for us to look at the music in the First Nations culture, there are two very strong types of music used every day that we see currently. First, we have songlines. Songlines are historical with deep cultural roots. And next, we have Dreamtime. Dreamtime are current with deep religious roots. First are songlines. Songlines is a Western name given to the type of Indigenous songs that have survived thousands of years in First Nation Australian communities that link to the land and to their history. These songs describe the Australian landscape in detail, but were critical in navigation of the vast lands which contained harsh and often arid interior. As the landscape developed over time, so did the songs that were used. This is comparable to the way that folk songs have developed with other groups of people all over the world, but especially in the West. These songs often link together in long cycles to aid in navigation, hunting, and survival, since the First Nations of Australians were nomadic people before they settled in the land they would eventually call home. Very few of these songlines are known by white Australians because it is widely kept within the First Nation culture. So now, after the settlement of the First Nations people to where they live even to today, the songs then adapted to songs of survival, songs of community, and songs of harvest when they were no longer needed for songs of navigation and songs of hunting. Here we have an example of songline.
First song I think Gunjari mad, but that mean he was curling up. And he sang the Gunjari Gunjari Olvere. That mean he started to make it move, not to travel, make it in the big song line. Gunjari Olvere, Gunjari Olvere, Gunjari Olvere, Gunjari Olvere. He was traveling, I kept going. When the sound of the boomerang was coming, from all different angles.
So, as you can see, he talks about some landscapes, talks about the river forming and moving, talks about the rainbow moving across the sky. These are used for navigation and also a bit of history as he was telling some stories. So what is Dreamtime? Due to the oral tradition of the Indigenous Australians, all aspects of their history and culture were passed down through songs and tales. So, Dreamtime provides scholars, anthropologists, and ethnomusicologists with a prime example of how the First Nations of Australia use music to keep their history and culture well preserved and dynamically alive. Dreamtime is a commonly used term for describing important features of Indigenous spiritual beliefs and existence. Australian Indigenous tribes believe that the Dreamtime was way back at the very beginning of all creation. The land and the people were created by spirits. They made rivers, streams, water holes, the land, hills, rocks, plants, and animals. It is believed that spirits gave them their hunting tools and each tribe their land, totems, and their dreaming. Indigenous peoples of this region see Dreamtime as a foundation for their religion and culture. It dates back roughly 65,000 years. It is the events of how the universe came to be and how all things were made. They understand Dreamtime as a beginning that never really ended at all. These beliefs of past, present, and future are held and thrive in their culture as songs, dances, artwork, and celebrations. Not only is Dreamtime kept thriving by music in this culture, but also stands as the inspiration for Indigenous Australian art that we will take a look at coming up. So this is the visual art that is often paired with Dreamtime, inspired by Dreamtime.
Australia is a very large country with a varied landscape.
Yeah.
It has rainforests, the outback desert, and the seaside. It also has an area in the north where there's art that's over 30,000 years old, the rock paintings of the Dreamtime painters. Long before there were roads and towns, Aboriginal rock artists painted the Dreamtime, the Aboriginal story of the beginning of the world. There are large numbers of these paintings under the ground of Kakadu National Park, which is actually owned by the Aboriginal people.
So we see a lot of different kinds of art. That's funny. Represented by the inspiration of Dreamtime. And here is a great example for a Dreamtime song. So, some of you may be thinking, whoa! You've probably just heard some instruments that aren't familiar to you, and that's a great reason for us to learn about them. So, with this awesome segue, here we are. We have come to the 4 common instruments used in First Nations of Australia music. First, we have the bull roarer. Second, we have the gum leaf. Third, clapsticks. And fourth, the didgeridoo. So first, the bull roarer. The bull roarer has an interesting story for its name. Since there were no bulls in Australia, this is a misnomer. The actual word for this instrument is secret sacred and is not shared with non-Indigenous of Australian people. However, we do know that the name bull roarer is the Maori word for moth because of the sound the instrument flying through the air is similar to the sound of the moth's wings. The instrument itself is not unique to Australia. The physics behind the instrument that create the sound is very advanced and has to do with the torque and speed at which the instrument is swung throughout the air. When used, the instrument creates a roaring vibrato sound with notable modulations occurring from the rotation of the roarer along its longitudinal axis. And during the research of this instrument, it is very physics oriented. The sound is thought to ward off evil spirits. Traditionally, bull roars are only to be used by men. Women are prohibited from using, touching, or in some cases, even seeing one. And it is classified as an aerophone. Next, we have the gum leaf. The gum leaf is an instrument taken straight from nature, and it consists simply of a leaf from one of the various species of eucalypt trees growing throughout Australia. The instrument is held between the lips using the fingers of both hands, and even though this sounds simple, it has a long tradition and culture and interesting aerodynamic and acoustic properties. Due to the nature of holding it in the mouth and blown, the gum leaf is classified as a wind instrument. When held between the lips with the fingers, the gum leaf acts as a vibrating valve when blown. But sounding a gum leaf involves more than blowing. One of the best ways I have found it be described is it's sealed off between the lips. You're not blowing it, you're just giving a little toot. The tooting buzz sound that is played in the song is said that from many sources to be mimicking the native birds when used in these songs. Next, we have the clapsticks, and the clapsticks have many various names that I have found in my research. So, sometimes called the Bilmir, Bilma, Gonbi, Conbag, Bilbil, or the Wilbig. But most people in the West refer to them as clapsticks. Clapsticks are a pair of concussive stick idiophones, clappers, used by the Indigenous people of Australia. In Northern Australia, clapsticks are played by male didgeridoo accompanied singers in open, non-secret ceremonies, clan songs, and entertainment songs. The clapsticks are made of solid hardwood that has minimally shaped down from a tree branch. There is no standardized size of clapsticks. Decorative designs are painted onto the sticks before use, and a player holds on to one of its ends in each hand and forcefully clashes their ends together. A high, clear, penetrating, and loud sound of indefinite pitch and short duration will sound. And finally, we have the didgeridoo. The didgeridoo is actually the national instrument of Australia, so it's more of the iconic sound when you think of Indigenous Australian music. So, the didgeridoo is a tubular instrument formed from the termite-eaten eucalypt trees of northern Australia. The instrument resembles closely a bamboo trumpet or even a bronze horn, but predates these instruments by many millennia. After the cutting down of the tree, the maker cleans the inside with a stick and shaves the outside with a sharp stone, and in many cases, then paints the outside with traditional designs from that specific tribe. The predominant sound of the didgeridoo is a low-toned drone. Didgeridoo players have a unique technique called circular breathing, which enables them to maintain the sound for a period of minutes without stopping. It is said that if a woman were to touch, pick up, or play the instrument, she would be made infertile. So, this is a custom that is still observed today, and we often only see men players still playing. The didgeridoo has this iconic sound because it is often used to imitate the sounds of animals that are native to Australia, often imitating the call of the kookaburra, a dingo's howl, a night owl's howl, or night owl's hoot, a crow's caw, or even the bouncing of a kangaroo as it moves across the land. For a better understanding of the animal sound mimicked using the didgeridoo, we're going to take a look at a video. And this is an amazing video. I'm excited for you guys to listen.
So let's try our first basic vocal sound of an animal, and it is the kookaburra. Now, kookaburra got its name from the Aboriginal nation, the Gamilaroi people. You don't say kookaburra, you say gugar gaga. So if everyone can say gugar and then gagar, or tuka and taka. Gurga, gagar. So krr, then so krr, kaga. So the very, very soft vibrating lips, and allows the projection of the vocal to come out louder. So when you're doing vocals, relax the breath and project the vocals more aggressively. Or even more basically, just say the words cook and then car. So 5 times cook, 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 and then all in the higher vocal range, okay? Imitating the basic hop of the kangaroo, I find it easier to use the word toil, and in effect you'll get the basic kangaroo hopping. Toil, 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 toil. And for a little baby kangaroo, 2, 2, 2. So toil, toil, 2, 2, 2. The basic dingo howl. The more relaxed you make your throat and the out breath, okay? Don't tighten the lips too much. The more louder the vocal of the dingo will come out. The owl, okay? In my language, we call the night owl bulu, but a more common name for it here in Australia is mopoke, for the simple reason. Another beautiful animal we have here.
So this is an amazing video. His name is Gummeroy Newman. I have also linked this video on the lesson guide. I highly suggest, if you are interested, watching the rest of the video and seeing the other videos that he has. It is awesome. So next we look at the vocal timbre. So the preferred vocal timbre of Indigenous Australian singers varies from region to region, but tends to lean towards a more guttural, raspy, and nasally sound than that of what we are used to in the Western School of Music. Between the voice and accompanying instruments, the didgeridoo, for example, a thick, guttural, flat texture of sound emerges. One of the most important uses of text while singing is for songlines and dream time. And then the melodic characteristics. So melodies are typically only present in the vocal part. Indigenous Australian music, as well as the use of gumleaf or didgeridoos when they are played melodically. The melodies tend to be simple, repetitive, and symmetrical with complementary phrases that balance rising and falling, and vice versa. With the didgeridoo serving as a drone under a vocalized melody, the texture of most traditional First Nations of Australia music should be considered monophonic, as there is only one melody, no harmony, and the drone that is creating a canvas behind the melody but not interacting in any real way. And one of the things that I realized is a good comparison is the didgeridoo is creating a drone, but not a drone that we have studied and seen in like chant kind of music where they're interacting with it. And I think that is what they mean by this. So thank you so much for joining me on this in-depth look into First Nations of Australia music. I hope you enjoyed it, and check out the lesson guide. I think it'll be fun for you and your students. And here's some sources. Thanks.